Okay, this is going to be a video response to Matt Dillahunty on his little discussion on anti-theism, which he released as a video the other day to clarify an earlier video that he made. I'm recording this, by the way, with my new microphone, so it should sound good, even if I end up talking a load of shite. At least it'll be good sounding shite. So that's a positive step, I think, there. What Matt Dillahunty was saying, he'd used the word anti-theism in a particular way. He contrasted that to the way people like, by way of example, Christopher Hitchens used the term to differentiate those two usages and then to justify his own usage of the term, mainly by means of a technical argument. So let's look at his usage, let's look at Christopher Hitchens' usage, let's discuss the technical argument, and then there's the third way that I want to talk about, which is the way that I use the word, and I think a lot of people use the word anti-theist, anti-theism. Okay, so what Matt Dillahunty was using it to refer to was as another term for strong atheism or hard atheism, an acceptance, an absolute acceptance as a kind of best fit proposition of the proposition there is no God. I believe there is no God or gods, as opposed to acceptance of the proposition I do not believe that there is a God. Okay, so that's the difference that he sees. You can frame it in different ways. I prefer to look at what proposition best fits what you believe. I explain this in a couple of other videos, and so the differentiator for me would be whether you subscribe to the proposition as a best fit proposition. I believe there is no God, as opposed to I believe there is a very high likelihood there is no God. That's the differentiator for me, using the term anti-theism to refer to what Matt was referring to. But I think we're all running along similar lines here, and we're maybe framing the same thing in different ways. Matt used the word anti-theism then to refer to that strong atheism, hard atheism, that kind of thing, that kind of absolute position that you believe that you have the knowledge that no God exists. He contrasts that with this kind of Christopher Hitchens anti-theism, which is portrayed as this idea that you are bitterly opposed to religion, and you are bitterly opposed to the gods that underpin those beliefs. Even if those gods existed, you would oppose the religion and you would oppose the God, basically on the grounds that the God as described is a total piece of shit. And even not as described, allowing for the things that happen for the world, given the characteristics of that God, he would have to be a total piece of shit. And that's the kind of anti-theism that he contrasts it to. Now, Matt Dillahunty makes a case for his definition based on a technicality, on what being anti-something should refer to, and suggesting that if you take the kind of Hitchens-esque definition, then you've got a bit of a disjoint between what theism is and what anti-theism is. But there's a problem with Matt's approach here, and that's that language doesn't work like that. Unless you're naming organic chemical molecules or something like that, you don't have hard and fast rules for definitions. There's no point if somebody tells you they're a lesbian insisting they must be referring to themselves as a citizen of the island of Lesbos, because that isn't how words work. They don't always follow the technical rules. There's no point being prescriptive with words. Sure, we can describe what definitions make more sense than others, which ones that appeal to us most make most sense, but ultimately we have to go with how words are actually used. And so to make a technical argument, I don't think makes sense unless you are comparing and contrasting two usages of the term that are both very much in common currency. And I don't think that the way Matt used the term really is in common currency. I've not heard anybody else talk about anti-theism to refer as kind of similes for strong or hard atheism. I've not heard that before. That's the first time I've heard that. And so to make a technical argument, I don't think holds a lot of water, because that isn't how we define words, and it isn't how we use words by and large. The interesting thing with Matt's video was that he never really trod upon what is perhaps the third thing that people mean by anti-theism, and I propose to you here that it's what most people mean, and in many ways it's even what Christopher Hitchens means, which is it's not a hatred for the gods that underpin theistic traditions, religions, even if those gods exist, but it's just an opposition to theism on the grounds that you do believe it's wrong, and that you're standing in opposition, you're taking a different stance to those people who label themselves atheists, but in a very passive way. In the same way that some people might view astrology and say, well, I think it's a load of rubbish, but if people want to read their stars and run their daily life based on what they read in those stars, that's up to them. Not only do I accept their right to do that, but I don't mind, they can carry on doing it, and I couldn't give a shiny shite about it. That's one way of looking at it, but then you have other people that get a little bit more het up about the whole thing and think, no, it annoys me that people are looking at these astrology columns in the papers and are running their days. It makes no sense. The constellations don't even fit with where the stars are anymore. They've drifted out over the last couple of thousand years. It's all a load of bullshit. How can Jupiter being in this constellation make any difference to your life? If you understood the science behind it, you'd see why it couldn't make any difference. There's no known way in which they could influence your life in the way that's being suggested. And some people, I'm one of those people, I've got to admit it, they get wound up about that. And so they take a kind of active opposition to such things. Richard Dawkins did. He made a TV series all about superstitions, the same as he had about religion, where he opposed superstitions. So I suppose that would be anti-superstition, and that's what many people mean, and I propose Christopher Hitchens often means when he talks about anti-theism, which isn't just this hatred that he would have if God exists, but it's this opposition to this kind of thinking that only sometimes seems to exist in a vacuum apart from the kind of science which would destroy the suspensions of disbelief that are required to maintain the belief that you do have. A classic example for me would be the existence of an immaterial, immortal soul, which many people believe, which many religions rely upon, but which makes no scientific sense whatsoever. There's no scientific way of modelling the existence of such a thing, or even how it could interface with the physical world of your material brain without interfacing with the material world of lab equipment that could pick up its existence, etc., etc. Some of us get really irate about that kind of thing and want to actively go out there and say to people, I accept your right to believe what you believe, but these are some very, very good reasons to abandon the belief that you have. That is a kind of anti-theism which I think is not only entirely acceptable, I think it's what many people mean by anti-theism, and it's a way that Matt Dillahunty didn't discuss in his video. With regard to the usage that Matt Dillahunty actually made, I don't think it matters, given that in his original video he explained what he meant by anti-theism, which is the important thing, is it not? If we explain our terms, does it really matter what those terms refer to? It's when we stop explaining our terms that the confusion reigns, the confusion that Matt points to in his video with regard to many terms, even the term theism itself. Of course, a theist can be somebody who believes in any kind of God, including a deistic notion of God, but it can also be used to differentiate specific personal gods from deistic notions of God. It's all very cloudy, it's all very complicated. What Matt did do is he explained his terms, he explained what he meant by them. So I think some of the criticism that he attracted in his comments was unwarranted, but at the same time I don't buy the technical argument that he makes to try and back up his definition, because that really isn't how words are defined. Okay, well, thank you for watching this video. I hope to be making videos a bit more regularly now. Life's kind of sorted itself out. I've had a lot of things that I've had to do. Should be back on YouTube a lot more regularly. Thank you for watching this video, and bye for now.